Hi, this is Trisha Wolfrey from Your Empowered Self, and here we are in the latest in our series of how to manage stress. Today, I'm going to be in conversation with Lisa Smith, who is a fantastic nutritionist. She really knows about stress inside out. She knows about the body inside out. She's fascinating to talk to, and I'm really pleased to have her here today. We're going to be looking at hormones and neurotransmitters, which sounds terribly technical, but they're super important in terms of knowing what's going on in the body and how we manage that. So Lisa is really good at making it simple to understand. But before we do that, I'm going to ask her what it is that stresses her out on a day-to-day basis. Hello, Lisa.
Hello there, Trisha, and thank you for inviting me to join you today. What stresses me out on a day-to-day basis? Being late.
Oh, yes.
That is one of, I was here half an hour before we were due to start this morning, all organised and ready. And I think one of the worst sides of that is when you are being late for no fault of your own, i.e. traffic.
Yeah.
So I am that person that always aims to get there half an hour early to allow myself for that traffic, because I prefer to sit in the car park and do something than be late.
Yeah, now I'm the same. So it's interesting that we've got similar characteristics. What I tend to do, leave far too early and take a book with me so that when I get there, I'm nice and calm. Funnily enough, I allowed an extra half hour to see a friend yesterday. The traffic kept me late, and I arrived in such a kind of rushingness that it wasn't great. So I'm not going to leave an hour before I do it. It was just one of those things, but I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and I am stuck in that traffic. I listen to audiobooks, so that can also just sort of keep the, if there's okay, but this is a very interesting thing I'm listening to, and it gives me. Sometimes I get there and I'm so interested in the book, I actually sit there for 10 minutes anyway.
Well, you have the time because you're half an hour early.
This chapter.
Actually, in an audiobook, you don't know the end of the chat. You don't know how far it is.
That's it. You're like, oh, come on, where's that point I can press stop?
Yeah.
It's when you get there as well and you're sitting there and you realise, actually, I've been sitting in this car park for the last 10 minutes and on a fascinating topic. And then, I think they're great, especially when you have got that long drive, because it does distract from just thinking about the traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, hormones, neurotransmitters. Yes. What on earth are these? Some people, I've come across it in my training, but some people don't know certainly what neurotransmitters are. Do you want to explain it on a simple level before we go into it?
I mean, if you think of hormones and neurotransmitters, they are really how the body communicates, how it sends its messages to tell the body what to do at a functional level in many cases. So, hormones, we tend to think about those, and many people think of, oh, that's to do with PMS. That's your estrogen, your progesterone, yeah. But we've got many others. I mean, when you look at the thyroid, that one is controlled by hormones. Looking after your blood sugar levels is hormones that act on that. Where your neurotransmitters are more brain chemicals. So we've got ones that, give us motivation, that give us that feel-good feeling. We've got ones that can calm us down. And it's really important that all of these stay in balance, because a knock-on effect of one can have that effect on many others.
Right, so one's in the brain, and the hormones are what we have that communicate with the rest of the body. And how are these actually linked to stress? How can they cause it and how can they relieve it?
I think, first of all, let's just redefine stress, because many people think of it just simply as anxiety or worry. And that is one part of stress, but at a physiological, if we look at the body's impact with stress, I mean, the world we live in today is really quite an anxiety-inducing and challenging place for many. And stress at a physical level actually connects sort of all of our genetics, our biology, the psychology. So it has this all-covering influence on the body. And when we look at the stress hormone, there's a couple of them, there's a few more, but the two main ones, we think of adrenaline. And then there's cortisol. So adrenaline, you slam your brakes on in the car, you get that surge of adrenaline that comes up. Then that's a short-term one because that goes back down. So we know we get the power, we go, oh gosh, nearly there. And then we calm down. Whereas cortisol, we don't really feel those immediate effects from, but it's the one that's in the longer run is the most powerful and the most influential, because in the hierarchy of hormones, the cortisol is going to save your life. That's the one, it's the fight and flight. It's going to get you out of the way of that bus that's hurtling towards you, so it can override other hormones and strongly influence them. So your two main stress hormones, say adrenaline short term, cortisol is the more subtle longer term one that has the impact on the body.
So it's there to help us, but you can have too much of it. So what creates too much?
Those stresses, it's not so much the stress itself, it's how you respond and react to that stress. Now that can depend upon how healthy you are, your nutritional status, etc., but also how long you've been exposed to that stress and the intensity of it. So it's actually quite beneficial for us to get stressed and then recover from it, because we're teaching the body those two, yes, I'm relaxed and now I'm stressed. But when we have that permanent level of stress, because the stress response in the body is the fight and flight response, it's getting us ready to run or fight. But how it does that is to take the energy away from non-urgent areas and basically pump it up to the heart, the lungs, and in the skeletal muscles. I might have to run, I might have to fight, I'm ready, and I'm right. And that's where we get a lot of tension in shoulders when we get stressed, because we've got all of that energy up there. But we have to think, well, where have we taken that energy from? So if you are about to run or about to fight, you're hardly going to sit down and eat your lunch, for instance. Or if the body is stressed, then actually producing reproductive hormones isn't a good thing to do. If I'm struggling, with myself in this stressful event, never mind thinking about new life. So
digestive issues, fertility issues,
fertility issues, hormonal issues, PMS. You can get ladies that actually lose their menstrual cycle in times of high stress. Because it will interact with the other hormones and almost act as a natural contraception.
Wow.
Because
don't rely on it, folks.
Because that's wrong.
I know what you mean. It's not in a planned way. It's not part
not in a planned way. No, but when I've seen people previously that are looking to conceive, when you look at the percentage of the unexplained infertility, this is a big factor in that, because the body isn't thinking, oh, now I can spend the energy on new life. It's thinking, I've got to use all my energy to actually get out of this tricky situation. So that's why having the opposite of stress is so important, which is the downtime, the relaxation. But you almost have to proactively do that, which seems it's almost a bit of a dichotomy there. I want you to proactively relax.
now
relax. But that's where things like the yoga, the breathing come into actually that physical level. Let the body know actually we do go into that relaxation side, because the other side of the fight and flight is the rest, digest, and repair. So if we get stuck in fight and flight, it's like having a car and never, ever servicing or MOT in it. You're just running it all the time. And eventually it's going to start going wrong.
So it can really affect so loads of people have digestive issues, don't they, of all kinds, and fertility issues. I know people that have given up trying to have a baby, and then now that they're relaxed about the whole thing, they kind of suddenly fall pregnant. But the digestive issues are very varied as well, aren't they?
Oh, yes. I mean, it is the way that the body works. You're looking at, I'm going to have to run or fight. Let's just shut down digestion, because you're obviously not going to eat. So you reduce digestive capabilities.
It
means if you then do it, then you've lost some of that the digestive capabilities. That means that that food isn't going to be digested as effectively. One of the key things that we get from that is acid reflux. And most of the time it'll be, oh, you've got too much acid, your stomach's producing too much acid, when in fact, no, it's not producing enough, and the food itself is producing the acid. So, you know, proteins are amino acids. If we look at dietary fats, they are fatty acids. They are very acidic. And so quite often reflux, indigestion, heartburn is magnified when people are stressed on there. And then if we go further down the digestion, then if this food hasn't been digested properly, we're going in, as it moves down the digestive tract, it's adding more work, which means we can get the bloating. You know, we can get the sort of, if anything arrives in the large intestines, I really don't like this, the body just, let's get it out. So there is a link with both constipation and diarrhea with stress. You know, many people I know have a cup of coffee in the morning and it triggers a bowel movement. So people say, that's, you know, why does it do that? Well, coffee contains caffeine, and we know that caffeine is a stimulant, but we sometimes forget what it stimulates, that physiological stress response. And if we're in that fight and flight situation, and we have something else that adds more, stimulates that even further, the body can say, you know what, I really am going to have to run or fight now. So if I am, make myself as light as possible. I don't want to carry any dead weight around. Empty the bowels, empty the bladder.
Yeah.
If you think interviews, you know, things like that, exams, tests, it's like, oh, just nip to the loo one more time.
Yeah. It is fascinating, isn't it? And I get some clients who have the opposite problem, and I think that's where they're holding on emotionally, where they're constipated, and it's where they're just holding on.
That's the tension in the muscles.
Oh, right, okay.
You've got the tension in the muscles, but then the hormones start interacting with the neurotransmitters as well, because the integrity of your digestive tract and your gut flora, you know, your good and bad bacteria, all have a part to play in production of hormones and neurotransmitters. So if you think of serotonin, we all know serotonin, it's, you know, it's antidepressants, most of them are based around that, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. It's a brain chemical. It helps with sleep, with mood, with anxiety levels. 95% of it's made in your digestive tract. So if you've got them problems there, it then starts feeding into the brain. And of course, then we've got the other neurotransmitters that either work with serotonin or oppose serotonin. And all of them can have this knock-on effect. I mean, dopamine, which is our reward and motivation neurotransmitter, again relies on the synthesis of it. The gut bacteria has a role in the integrity of the gut. So we're very, you know, people say car's very complicated, but it's very linear, A to B to C. The human body, complicated but complex. So we're like a cobweb, and no one thing goes to just something else. We've got all of this interaction. And that, unfortunately, is what is missed sometimes, the bigger picture. You know, people will say, oh, you've got a low mood, you've got depression, have this medication. We should, well, hang on, why have we got depression? Have we got issues with the gut? Have we got high stress levels? And we start moving and seeing this bigger picture and all the influences that are actually behind that symptom, because sometimes a symptom that we're feeling is just a symptom of something else. And we have to find what really is the problem.
Yeah. And dopamine is a big problem, because some people are really addicted to getting higher and higher levels. And that means that they're doing things to achieve those higher levels that aren't good for your health either. Yeah. So do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so dopamine, as I say, it's our reward and motivation. It's basically, did I like this and do I want to do it again? Yeah. And so when we have dopamine, we can have a couple of issues with it. We might not make enough of it, which means we're constantly seeking it, because it is one of those real feel-good factors. So we might constantly seek behaviors that give us a dopamine hit. It's linked very much to adrenaline as well. So those people that have that great urge to throw themselves out of planes or off bridges on an elastic band are often looking for that, you know, they're adrenaline seeking, dopamine seeking. But also we have, this is where genetics comes into it, we have a gene that breaks dopamine and adrenaline down. And some people break it down really quickly. So they might produce the dopamine, they get the yay, that's great, and then, oh, And again, the body is looking for that pick-me-up. Now, things that stimulate dopamine in the body, yes, we've got the adrenaline seeking, that reward sort of feeling, but we've got salt, we've got sugar, we've got caffeine. We've got high fatty sort of those foods, the processed foods, because they contain often quite a lot of those. And if you've got a dopamine starved brain, those foods are going to have such a bigger impact on you. Therefore, the craving for them will be bigger. It isn't, people will say, oh, we need to balance blood glucose levels. It's, a craving. But, it isn't a craving for some people. It is a neurotransmitter imbalance. And balancing your blood sugar levels, it'll help a little bit, but it is not going to take away that need for dopamine.
Yeah, so I mean, you can get dopamine from scrolling as well, presumably. The likes that you get from social media.
It's anything that gives you that reward.
Yeah, so some people are totally addicted to some of these things and shopping online and all of that. And I think, and I'm not as nearly the level that you are on these things, but I think the more you have, the more you need, unless you balance yourself out. Is that correct?
Right. There's no midway. It's either up or down.
Oh my Lord, how complicated is that? So what can people do, assuming that it's a dopamine imbalance, to bring that so that it's a more moderated level that keeps them happy but not craving for so much?
Well, certainly in practice, one of the first things I look at is, have we got some of the genes that are driving this? So we've got the gene that breaks dopamine down. We've also got genes that allow dopamine to be used by the body. Some people don't use it very well. So it means that, okay, we know where we're standing with that background. What we then need to do is say, what can we do to support? So dopamine is made by protein. All of the things in the body, every cell in your body is made by protein. So have we got adequate amounts of the specific protein that's needed to make dopamine in the first place? Have we got all the other little bits that glue it together? It's like having a recipe for dopamine. We need all the ingredients in the right amount, and we need to be able to mix it together. Have we got all of those things in? And have we got too much of the things that are pressing the button all the time? We almost want the body to naturally press that button and produce dopamine, not have the Diet Cola, all that caffeine in, and those sweeteners that the World Health Organization have just sort of started commenting on, the aspartame.
I can't believe they're only just saying that right now.
I know, but it's, but again, and these have the ability to anything that can impact, that can pass through the blood-brain barrier and impact on the brain, will actually influence behavior.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if we do something constantly over time, it becomes a habit, and it becomes a little bit harder to break then. So it isn't something that just, we can flip that switch, but it's looking at saying, okay, what's driving this? What can we put in? So for instance, with Diet Cola, when people are drinking that a lot, and that is quite a common one that I see.
Yeah.
For some reason, kombucha seems to give that same sort of feeling, but without the negative connotation. I don't know why. The science behind it, I'm not sure. It just is working with my clients at the moment.
It's nice to know. We'll put it in the nice to know category.
That's nice to know, but it's just switching. I have clients maybe drinking 6-8 cans of Diet Cola a day.
I know, yeah, me too.
Can we bring it down to every other one? And then can we bring it a little bit more? Can we switch to decaf coffee on there? Buffering coffee, putting say collagen into a coffee, because collagen's most abundant protein in the body. It also slows down how we can get that caffeine out. So just as alcohol on an empty stomach is going to have a bigger impact, caffeine on an empty stomach will. So put the caffeine after you've eaten. So there are lots of little things that we can do, and there are supplements out there that can actually put in those ingredients for the recipe if we're not making them ourselves or haven't got them in.
I came across one that's got lion's mane in it, a coffee with lion's mane and ashwagandha.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah, I mean, I would still possibly put a bit of unflavored collagen granules in there, but
Right.
ashwagandha helps with the body to manage stress. I mean, ashwagandha is a lovely herb, and you can buy specific sort of coffees with collagen, ashwagandha in. So it's that real nice buffering. You're still getting that coffee taste, and instead of having a hit and then down, you're getting a slower, longer lasting, more moderate feeling. So it's not that yay crash. It's like, oh, this is
Yeah, exactly.
that
'Cause
keeping
you're
things
chasing the yay, aren't you, all day? But you're experiencing
crashing.
more and more
That,
crashes.
that's
Yeah,
it is. It's one of, you know, some clients are 100% or nothing. There's
yeah,
no in between, you
yeah.
know, and what happens then is it's always seeking something to give you that dopamine and what's new, what's novel, what's new. So
Mm,
you'll find clients that they go into a new hobby 100% for 6 months. Oh, I'm bored now. Oh, I'll go and do this.
mm,
You know, it is that very much that jack of all trades, master of none, because keep switching and bopping around. Because once you do something, it's lost that novelty, that reward feeling.
yeah,
So yeah, getting an understanding of why people do things and how to help them to moderate. It
yeah.
can, it
So
can be good.
there's two things then. There's the genes might be a factor, but also the lack of protein. And of course, with vegans and vegetarians, they're not always very good at making sure that they're getting the protein in. They tend to go for, the carbs and the.
That's a whole different kettle of fish
Let's look
there,
at it
because
today then.
the thing I will say is there is a lot of food out there that has a faux halo over it. Well, it isn't even over the head, it's around the neck. And these are these highly processed
Yeah,
vegan fake meats.
yeah,
Do not contain food. They are made in a laboratory, they haven't been grown out there. And these don't, you know, they haven't got these nutrients in that are needed.
yeah,
You know, and it is really important. And there's nothing wrong with being vegan and vegetarian, but you do have to put more effort and more consideration in to make sure you are hitting all your dietary needs, especially with protein.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So is there anything else? There's another one. I don't know if we've mentioned it. GABA helps to moderate, doesn't it?
Yeah, GABA. Yeah,
GABA.
yeah,
Oh, I
GABA.
prefer my pronunciation. I'm going to keep with that. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. Okay. So GABA is the only true calming neurotransmitter.
Yeah,
So if you think of all the others, cortisol getting you ready to run or fight, you've got dopamine firing up, you've got glutamate, which is excitatory to the brain. Serotonin can be good because it's relaxing, but it isn't actually that working with the nervous system and down. And that's what GABA does. But remember that any stress is going to override that, because, you know, why do I want you to go and relax and sleep if you're in danger? If there's a
yes,
potential danger out there, I want you to sleep with one ear and one eye open. Hence why stress is so detrimental to sleep as well.
yeah,
GABA is very much and down, it's calm, but GABA also has its ingredients, its recipe list. And this is when we need things like magnesium. We need the B vitamins, because although they are good for energy, they're good for the body's energy and producing things on there. But I mean, magnesium is Mother Nature's anti-anxiety mineral. But we use
that in like green leafy greens.
leafy greens, but you use more. See, when you exercise and contract and relax muscles, you need calcium to contract muscles and magnesium to relax them. So the more you exercise, the more stressed you are, the more you sweat, the more you need magnesium. So at times when you sort of stressed, your demand for magnesium is a lot more, but we've just shut down digestion if we're not careful. And we end up with this knock-on impact. So if you think of a muscle contracting, it needs magnesium to relax it. So if you think of cramps, twitches, pins and needles, when do we get them? At night time, or in the yoga class when we're trying to stretch and relax. And it's because that muscle is desperately trying to relax because it's been tense all day through the stresses of the day-to-day, the movement, etc. And there isn't enough magnesium. So it's desperately trying to relax, but it can't. So it's one of the most common deficiencies that I see
Yeah.
And because those leafy greens are not being eaten, not in the volume that we need compared to the stress that we're under.
Yeah. It's available in lots of things. I think mushrooms has magnesium, and does milk have magnesium as well?
Yeah, I mean, your leafy greens are a really good source of it. They've also got all the other things in that, you know, are needed: the folate, the B12, the B vitamins.
I mean, almost anything is have your dark green leafy vegetables. Anything.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but again, there are some people that the taste of them is just, you know, there are people that cannot tolerate bitter foods at all.
But that's something you can acclimatize yourself to, isn't it, over time?
There are genetics behind it. I mean, in
really?
evolutionary terms, having a gene that made you dislike bitter foods might have been beneficial. A lot of poisonous foods are bitter. And also having one that preferred sweet foods, because fruit was only available for a month, 6 weeks a year, would have been a real beneficial thing to make you want to eat it. And that in evolutionary terms, great. But in today's world, we're surrounded by sweet things 12 months of the year. And there are people that have naturally got a sweet tooth. You can work with that and educate. But unfortunately, with the people that are called super tasters genetically, it's not going to happen. And that's when we need to look at maybe some of the superfood powders that you can mix with something. Or it's the way, how can we make this food more palatable, get rid of that bitter taste?
Yeah, interesting. It's such a fascinating subject, isn't it? So how can people so you said magnesium to increase the GABA is make sure you're getting magnesium, and anything else that they can do to increase it?
Really work on that relaxation.
Yeah.
You know, active relaxation. Unfortunately, relaxation and sleep tend to be what we do at the end of the day when we've done everything else.
Yeah.
Because we live in a now world that's sitting there and relaxing and seeing, what am I achieving? I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
And it really is very important, because we all know the world is a better place if we get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And it is that self-care almost, and making relaxation as important as the exercise.
Yeah.
It's so important. We all know, you know, we need to exercise, we need to go to the gym, we need to walk, we need to move. We're not, that emphasis isn't on, yes, but we also need to give the body its downtime. And many of my clients, I will say to them, you know, when you go to bed, you fall asleep quickly or slowly. And obviously, if they're slowly, that's whole issues. Usually can't switch the mind off. But if they fall asleep quickly, I'll go, that's great. Now, is that because you're in a natural sleep cycle? Are you exhausted? And it's often exhaustion. So it isn't even the right kind of sleep. And people go from run to, and they're out. And where's the relaxation there?
Yeah.
No, it isn't there. So it's actually giving the body sort of both sides of the equation, not just one. And then it collapses into sleep and then wakes up. Often people can't get to sleep at night, can't switch off. So they go to bed wide awake and they wake up tired.
Yes.
Completely the wrong way around.
Yeah. And the liver has a lot to do with that, hasn't it? Because it's trying to work while you're sleeping, and it detoxes the body, and then it's not.
That's it. Well, again, you know, if you think of a really stressful fight and flight situation, the liver isn't urgent at that point. So the energy that's supplied to the liver is reduced. So there's, again, genetics involved with this, but some people, you know, they have that sluggish liver. And the more stressed you get, the more you will find, oh, I just can't tolerate alcohol anymore. You used to be able to drink 3 or 4 glasses of wine. Now 1 glass and I've hit my limit.
That's me. Honestly.
We'll chat about this later. And this is your body, you know, to physical level. Stress isn't always visible. You know, it's one of those things. Yes, the high stress, but there's subtle signs to stress that we sometimes miss. And I think that the difficulty is when we never relax. We might not get the very high stress, but we never relax. We get a constant level of stress without relaxation. because after a while, if you look at stress on a scale of 1 to 10, and let's say we permanently stay at 4, because life, we've got things to do, we're working, we've got a house, we've got all these bits, we never truly relax. We get to bed, we just crash asleep out of exhaustion. If we stay at that level long enough, the body says, okay, that's my new naught. That is relaxation to me.
Yes.
And then people find it difficult to relax. They go to yoga classes and get more annoyed while they're there because they're not doing anything. They go on holiday and they can't relax because the body thinks it needs that permanent little bit of stress.
Yeah.
And then, you've this is that sort of very proactive breathing is so important, because the number of times people are breathing, into their lungs instead of into their diaphragm. A lot of shoulders going up and down as they breathe, instead of that. I call it baby breathing. When you watch a baby breathe, little belly goes up and down. It's how we should breathe. But it is that getting that relaxation. And again, there are some things that we can do. We know the magnesium, but there's some lovely teas out there. Some of those herbal teas. So you've got the likes of your ashwagandha that support stress resilience. You've got the magnesium to help you to relax. You've got things like the chamomile, the lemon balm, all working with the nervous system to just allow the body to calm down.
I think it helps if you have a lovely mug for it to go in. I've just got myself.
Oh, yes.
It's got a little heart on there. Can you? No, there you go.
Yes, I can see it. Yes, a little. But that's the other thing. We don't wait till we shouldn't be waiting until we're thirsty.
Yeah.
Drink, because it's almost too late then. But one of the most common things I'm saying to people is you need to drink more, because people get so.
It makes it more of a ceremony and more self-nurturing, and then you'll want to drink more when you do things in a way that's pleasing and soothing to the senses. Like, to me, this mug, the shape of it, there's heart on the front, it's just like a hug in a mug. And then you've got a beautiful herbal tea in there as well. Those are things that are signals, aren't they?
Yeah, but if we're stressed, we're not going to listen to those signals, because that's not going to save our life. And we've got to sort of get a little bit more in touch.
Yes.
How am I feeling? Am I stressed? And do I know when I'm stressed?
Yeah.
Can I relax? Have I got tension in my shoulders? I sort of, and then actually do something about it. Just go for a walk.
Yeah. I mean, there are a couple of things that I've got on the channel to help people work on themselves as well. But all of this, about nutrition, about the protein and the magnesium and all of those things are really, really helpful. And just people taking time out and getting used to kind of maybe taking 30 seconds out to start off with, and then stretching it to a minute or something like that, just to create a tolerance for stillness.
We live in a very demanding, from the senses point of view. There's onslaught all the time, there's demands, but it's go, and we didn't evolve like that. And if you think it's only been the past 50, 60 years we've been like this, in this digital sort of decades, it's only maybe 3 decades, 4 at the most, the digital.
We've become a slave to it, haven't we, rather than the other way around.
Whereas if you look sort of pre-war, about our lifestyle, then very, very different. And one of the differences is, at the moment, we either sit down or we exercise. And what we should do, what about that middle bit? What about that activity just when we're moving? So we either don't move or we're exercising. We've lost that movement.
Yeah.
Just moving around, which helps the body to, again, just those muscles to relax a little bit. If you've been sitting hunched over your computer, just actually getting up. If I take a phone call, I often walk around with it just to relax.
This actually helps you to detox as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, exercise is good, because think of the fight and flight response. It's got all that cortisol ready to run or fight. And of course, exercise is exactly that. So you actually get rid of those hormones.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they stay in the body, having their longer impact, and they've got to wait until they're naturally detoxified out. Looking after your liver, that's a whole different subject. That's the one for another day.
Maybe we do one on looking after your liver. Yes, because the liver's got all kinds of stuff going on, hasn't it, including emotion. So maybe we do exactly that.
It's not happy. If your liver isn't happy, you're not happy.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so many
Really
layers
is,
to that.
and of course, and everything is interconnected.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I do hope everybody has really enjoyed this. I just find talking with you completely fascinating, endlessly fascinating. But we may do another one about the liver next time. But I always ask my guests if there's a book that they could recommend that they found inspiring or useful in some way that other people may benefit from. And I think you have one in mind, don't you, Lisa?
I do, yes. It was a book that sort of provided me with some light bulb moments. It's called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, and it's by a neurologist called Dr. Robert Sapowski. And it really considers the evolution and biology of stress and looks at why chronic stress is so detrimental to us, both physically and emotionally. You have to get through a bit of the science of it, but there are some really good things there that you just say, well, that makes sense. We didn't evolve with stress like this.
Exactly.
We evolved with stress to run for 10 minutes when we were the hunter or the hunted.
Yes.
And it's just, and that's really good. And if I can just add a second one, which
Go on, then.
That's going the stress side. If we look at the relaxation, I can't remember the chap's name. I think it might be David Parker. It's a book, and I'll use the little asterisk. It's F.it. And it's all about you take a deep breath in, you say it as you breathe out, and you let go of things. Is it important? Is it really important? Breathe in and it.
I never used to swear at all, not even small words, and then I don't know why I did, and I thought actually it's a really good stress relief, not as a kind of punctuation to your sentences, but it can really help. I read the other book as well, so that I recommend both of those books. They're fantastic.
It's just really good to give you that sort of, let's let go of that.
So thank you very much. I do hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. If you have, please like it. And if you haven't already, do subscribe and share it with somebody. You never know what difference it will make to somebody in their life right now. Thank you, and see you next time. Bye.